viewers, devout disciples, welcome. This is your Master GongSun. Today, I want to tell you what makes my own lineage that I founded, the Sweet Divine Tao, or SDT. Don't confuse that with STD, but SDT, Sweet Divine Tao. What makes it different from all the other ones out there? There's so many. There's like, of course, the one I learned from is Maosan, so my ideas are most similar to Maosan. But there's also all the other like mountains of sects or lineages, right? There's so many of them out there. But why was I motivated to create my own branch of Taoism, my own lineage? What's the point of that? It's because I know there are certain things in Taoism that are either contradictory or just plain incorrect or wrong or inaccurate. I'll tell you why. What is the main difference between mainstream Taoism and what I do? There's one huge difference. I'll talk about the huge difference here. There are other differences as well, but they're minor. The big one is what I believe happens in the afterlife and what mainstream Taoism says about the underworld. Now, I should say that when I say believe, what I mean is that I know, and I should not say believe. In fact, I should say what I know happens for a fact in the afterlife. This here is what mainstream Taoism says is the afterlife. So first I'll tell you what mainstream Taoism says is the underworld. And then I'll tell you what the Sweet Divine Tao says based upon my own astral projections. All right, let's begin. So in mainstream Taoism, and it's similar to, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as Chinese mythology because they're one and the same, essentially. Taoism influenced Chinese culture so much to the point where it's intertwined and one cannot be accurately extricated from the other. So this is what happens when you die. In Chinese mythology and in mainstream Taoism, after you die, upon death, there are psychopomps, otherwise known as guardians of the newly deceased. And it's these that in Mandarin we meaning the police of the yin variety, the yin police. Right? So upon death, you either have someone like Niu Tou or Ma Mian, so ox-headed and horse face, and this is what they kind of look like here. I'll show you what here, right? That's what's supposed to come and escort you to the underworld after death. Or you could have someone called Hei Bai Wu Cang, right? And I'll just type it in. It's called Hei Bai. I think they do have it here, don't they? Here. See, Wikipedia is so very versatile, isn't it? Or here, right? It's called Hei Bai Wu Cang, literally meaning black and white impermanence. And these are deities in Chinese folk religion, which is essentially the same thing as Taoism, really. I mean, there's not a huge difference, right? And they're in charge of escorting the newly deceased to the underworld. Now, what happens in the underworld? This I did a great, deep dissection of, a deep dive into. But before we go into that, I'll just tell you a bit about who these people are, right? In folklore, they're called Xie Bi An, right? The white guardian. The black one is called Fan Wu Jiu, right? Those who commit crimes will have no salvation. Those who make amends will be at peace, right? And these are essentially these are actually people who lived lives of extreme virtue here on earth. They were humans, and then after death, they were promoted. And that's what we, especially yours truly, should be aiming for. We should practice Taoism in order to escape this wheel, the karmic wheel of samsara, of death and rebirth and reincarnation and all that. And then we can serve a higher purpose. right? So there are people like that. If you're interested, you can read the whole thing by yourself. I won't read it for you, but there are background stories to these psychopomps, right? So there's this one here, right? Hei Bai Wu Tang, and of course, Ox Head and Horseface is the most famous one. Okay, so they're the messengers, according to this. They're the messengers of the king of hell, which is Yan Luo Wang, right? Which is very much influenced by Hinduism. Yan Luo is actually a sinicization of the name of a Hindu god, actually. Anyway, so that's the police, right? The Yin police, and then after you arrive, you're actually judged. You go to somewhere called Guimen Guan. You see this here. This is in Singapore, a city state rather, that I spent quite a bit of time in. And there's 10 of these. So 10殿阎罗鬼门关. Guimen Guan means the gate of ghosts, right? And you have to pass through because you're no longer alive. You're heading down to the underworld, a place called Fengdu, right? And it says, so I should say right here. Where's Fengdu? There we go, Fengdu Ghost City, right here. So, yeah. So that's Fengdu, right? That's where you're supposed to go, and after death. So essentially, you go there, you're escorted by the Yin police, and then what happens? You're judged by all the different judges of hell. There's like 10 of them. And I shouldn't call it hell, I should call it the underworld, because unlike hell is not necessarily... Hell has a very negative connotation to it in Western culture, right, where you're punished. Here it's the underworld. So if you actually are a good person, you won't be punished. Actually, you'll just be judged on the merits and your virtue you displayed during your lifetime, and then you might even be promoted, and you won't have to go back to Earth to do it all over again. You might escape samsara, the wheel. You might be able to escape reincarnation. But anyway, if you are bad, then you will be punished, and these punishments are actually very creative, right? There's, I mean, like, what was it? There's one for lying. If you lie, then you will be deep fried alive in a wok of oil, right? Stuff like that. And then after, but unlike in Western lore, like the Christian concept of hell, punishment is not eternal. This means that after the judge determines you have had enough punishment, then you cross the bridge, what we call Meng Po. Meng Po is an old lady who feeds you. Maybe I'll just type it in here, Meng Po. She's an old lady who feeds you. There we go. See, at Haw Par Villa in Singapore, they recreated the Chinese concept of the underworld. Right? She waits dead souls at the entrance of the 9th round of the underworld called Fengdu, and she gives you a soup. She serves you a soup, and this soup is supposed to wipe your memory of your previous life so that you could reincarnate into the next life with a blank slate, or what they say here, with the burdens of the previous life, right? And that's it, right? But according to my own astral travel, so that's what the Chinese underworld is supposed to be like, according to mainstream Taoism and Chinese mythology. But that is not accurate. This is just a fictional place. This does not exist. I know this because, according to my own astral travels, my astral travels have taken me everywhere, but I've seen the afterlife. It's not that bad. There is no punishment there. I mean, whatever punishment awaits, it's punishment that you inflict upon yourself. For example, I subscribe to a YouTuber who constantly astral travels, and he talks about his astral adventures, and he's been able to interview the recently deceased people like Jeffrey Epstein and so on and so forth, and famous people from history, even Hitler. And it seems like these people are in a hell of their own making, but it's only because they have punished themselves, right? That they're stuck in a certain spot in one of the infinite number of realms, and they cannot move on because of what they did during their time on Earth, because of their karmic baggage. And that's why we must all live life here on this earthly realm with a clear conscience. Otherwise, you will impose your own hell on yourself, and you'll be unable to move forward. You'll be stuck, right? So anyway, this does not exist. This is my main disagreement with mainstream Taoism, and that's why I started my own version, my own lineage of Taoism called the Sweet Divine Tao. For more information, please go to my website, sweetdivinetao.com, and join my classroom, Google Classroom. The link is in the description below. All right, that was a quick look at the Chinese underworld. This has been your Master GongSun. As usual, keep living in alignment with the Tao.